Welcome, everybody, to Reclaiming America. I'm Bill,
I'm Dan.
and we're here to tell you how to fix what's going on in the world if it's fixable.
I think we're beyond fixable at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, you may be right.
Been a rough week, Bill.
It has been, and I think this is going to be our most somber show we've ever done.
Yeah, we like to have a little fun and pick on each other, but I think at least to start, we gotta kind of tone that down because
Right. So, what do you think's been dominating the news the last few days?
There's been three big ones for me, and we're probably going to address all three of them. But the biggest one of all, I think it's fair to say, is the unfortunate events happening in Israel and Gaza.
And the world's reaction to it.
And not just the world's, but
The extraterrestrial.
within the United States, seeing the reactions. I am utterly appalled at some of them.
I agree.
You know,
It's been scary watching today's day of jihad.
yeah. And
Anyway, why don't we review what's going
yeah.
on right now?
So, and I will preface this by saying I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood. My friends were all Jewish. Well, not all, but 95% of them. And most of my friends had Holocaust survivors for parents. So I might be a little biased, and I will tell you that I'm a little biased. But
And I will remain right down the middle as always.
when I first heard about this Saturday morning, I think it was, I was like, here we go again at first. Because I kind of heard that something had happened. And then the videos started showing up.
You know, and where they started this was a music festival of nice, almost like a smaller version of Woodstock down in the
Pretty
southern
much,
part
yeah.
of Israel. And all of a sudden, several hundred, from what we understand, Hamas attacks people came through. They broke in because that's another thing we need to discuss about the disarming of the Israeli public. And literally slaughtered anybody and anybody they ran into. Indiscriminately, men, women, children, old, young,
Last
didn't
number
matter.
I saw was around 1,200, give or take. You know, and that's the other thing. They're trying to spin this now as, I don't know how to exactly say it, but basically nearby were some Israeli bases, and that's actually what they were attacking. But yet somehow they landed their paragliders at this festival and spent hours shooting by mistake.
And, you know, the research has come up that this was a year in planning.
Yeah,
This has been going on for a year. They were smart. They did a couple of things which were interesting. They minimized the number of people that knew about it to cut down the ability of it to be leaked out, which is a good tactical move. They also actually built a city that they practiced in door to door. You know, so they were prepared. Now the bigger question comes from, where did all this money come from to do this?
And the intelligence to do it. And I don't mean that they're not smart. I mean, you've got to have governmental level intelligence.
Well,
So who gave it to them? We all know who it was.
Yeah, and anybody that knows anything about it, it came from Iran, and they've been backing everybody over here, and they're the biggest terrorist backers in the world.
It's difficult for me to, you know, I try and stay somewhat objective on it. I'm really struggling with it because my viewpoint is Israel got shocked by this. Some have speculated that they wanted this to happen. I don't believe that for 1 second.
That's like saying that we wanted Pearl
9/11
Harbor to happen.
or Pearl Harbor
Yeah,
or
9/11,
whatever.
pick one.
This is their 9/11.
Yes, it
if
is.
you look at the casualty count, somebody did the math. So Israel is ballpark around 10 million people live
I think it's
there.
a little less than that,
So
but close.
when you look at the numbers, it's the equivalent of us losing, say, 40,000 people at 9/11 as opposed to the, unfortunately,
Yeah, or
2,500.
another 10 or 12 9/11s.
Yeah, I mean, that was eye-opening to me to see that. And
You know,
to
and
see
You're talking 1,200 dead, but you're also talking more than 3,000 wounded at some
how
level.
wounded, plus the kidnapped ones,
Right, we haven't got into that yet.
just the horrific crimes that are being done.
And there are crimes against humanity. There's
They
no
are.
argument with it.
And, you know, do the Palestinian people support it? You know, I hear both sides. Not at all. Of course they do.
And there are people in the middle that just want to live
And
their
I'm
lives.
kind of, my judgment is this, though. Who did they elect to be their government? Hamas. 2006, they elected to make Hamas the government.
Yeah, but we all know how elections can be held.
Well, I know that, but that's where it's at. So I do have a lot of sympathy for the innocent civilians in Palestinians. I do.
But I will also give credit to the Israelis. Never before. I mean, we did a little bit of leaflet dropping during World War II.
Oh, they're trying, yeah.
Yeah, but they're letting everybody. We're coming in 24 hours. Get out of there if you don't want to be there, because Hamas is using you as a shield.
And Hamas is telling them, don't leave.
No.
Stay in your homes. Why would they do that? Of course they want them there as a shield.
Yeah. Also, they can claim the body counts and try to turn the world against the Israelis, which unfortunately I think they're not too far from happening anyway.
I think we're right there. It's, like I was thinking about this. What is Hamas's goal from the beginning? They're not going to beat Israel. They know that. They're never going to beat Israel. But if they can create enough fervor against Israel, that's their win. And they're starting to succeed. And you're seeing it here in the United States. I mean, college campus after college campus, you've got these kids who are utter morons. I'm going to be blunt about it. Standing there going, free Palestine. Oh, and that's fine if you want to free Palestine. But by supporting Hamas, you're supporting the atrocities that are being committed.
And they deny the atrocities have happened.
And that's the thing, right? They're living in La La Land.
Those 40 beheaded kids, babies, that were beheaded and burned, they didn't happen because someone didn't see them.
No video
the women being raped didn't happen.
Well, I have seen video. And I'm going to give credit where credit's due. Is Elon Musk and X and Twitter, whatever you want to call it, there are videos out on it. And Bill and I were driving over. I was telling him, I've probably watched more than I should have, but I felt almost obligated to watch them. And, there's one out there. The first one that really stunned me was a kid, Israeli kid, 17, 18, from the concert. The attack's going on. He dives under his car to get protected, and another kid, probably the same age, walks up and shoots him in cold blood for no reason. The kid wasn't no threat to him, and he just went up. That you see that, and then I've seen worse. And I don't want to describe it too much because I don't want to get banned, but the videos are out there. Anyone who's sitting there living in denial, to be blunt and nice about it, is crazy. These atrocities have happened.
Unfortunately, there are people out there that they could be on the ground watching it happen and would deny it.
It could happen to them.
Look, we still have people that said that our landing on the moon was all done in a studio.
9/11 didn't happen.
Yeah, they're out there, and there's nothing going to change their minds because they don't have one.
Is it because they don't have one, or that they've been so conditioned, programmed by
whatever their beliefs
now?
are, that you can't do anything to shake those beliefs.
That's my point. They're in these colleges, and I was telling you, I believe it was UNC. There's this whole group of kids fighting for Hamas. Now, every one of them happened to be wearing a mask. Well, if you're going to sit there and support whomever, and you have to hide behind a mask, what is it? That means that maybe it's not right. You're supposed to support them.
Well, did you look at the stir going on in Harvard?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Tal.
Okay, there's like 30 groups that have come out in support of Hamas and attacking Israel, et cetera, et cetera.
In writing, too.
And the leadership in Harvard is slow in coming out to say anything. They had to be forced after a couple pushes to come out and at least support what's happened in Israel as far as supporting what the Israelis went through as far as the shock and awe and the killing of people. Mm-hmm. They finally did that. But again, you've got big donors, and that's where the money is going to come into this thing. The big donors that give to Harvard are saying the money is going to stop unless you tell me which of these groups signed these petitions, right. Because frankly, we're not hiring any of those people. They're not coming to work for us.
That's exactly what should happen.
Right. And Harvard's saying, no, we can't release that information.
Why? That's my point. I know, I'm not saying
it's
it's
rhetorical.
Like UNC. You think you don't, just because those kids weren't wearing masks, you're going to allow them to talk under First Amendment, but yet argue to me that if a conservative goes in there to talk about male suicide, we can't have that because that's offensive to people and it might trigger people. That's not okay, but you can go up there and say, yeah, go ahead and slaughter women and children. I mean, come on. These universities, and the reason I'm picking on UNC is it's a state school, if I'm
It is a state school.
So they get funding from
Us.
So yeah, we have the right to say something,
Yeah,
right?
we pay the bill.
I hope the legislature steps up and stomps UNC if they don't do something to these kids. Out them. They're perfect. I have no problem with them standing there speaking their views. None. But not hiding behind masks. I want to know who they are so that we can then say, you're not coming to work for us.
You're entitled to your beliefs, but you should be able to stand up and if you truly believe it,
I
and
will
defend it.
defend them being able to say what they said as much as I'm horrified by it.
I agree.
But if you're hiding behind a mask, you know what you're saying is wrong.
Which leads us into another famous group that's supporting.
Oh, yeah, you're going to go there already.
I thought you were going to give you that one. Go ahead.
So, in case you don't know, because they've now tried to hide it, a certain organization who was mostly peaceful back in 2020, even though they
except for the rioting here and there,
burning the cities, and killing people.
Aside from that,
mostly peaceful. Black Lives Matter, for those who can't
commonly known as
that.
BLM.
BLM came out full bore for Hamas. Literally took one of the paragliders as a symbol, posted it on Twitter, and said, "Enough said," based on paraphrasing it. Full support. And that was the Chicago branch. Then the LA branch came out. And then I think Kansas City. There was quite a few of them. Yep, we're all in support. New York
jumped in there someplace too.
And now they're all bailing because they found out real fast that wasn't the smartest move. But it tells you what Black Lives Matter really stands for. And I have this to say. All you corporations, Microsoft, Walmart, Target, Cisco, the list is endless.
Apple, pick one.
Apple that donated to BLM, you are in support of Hamas.
And if you continue to support to them, it's saying that you really do support their latest stand.
If they don't come out, even now, if they don't come out and say something like, we're divesting ourselves from BLM, we want our money back, I hold those corporations just as accountable as I am BLM.
And that's fair.
I just...
now, the Israelis are building up for a major incursion into Gaza. The tank after tank's rolling up there, and people are saying, why isn't it happening yet? Well, you need to understand that there are about 300,000 reservists being called up. They've got to be outfitted. They've got to be gone through a little bit of training to get to where they need to go. Plus, there's a case with, I heard as much as 300,000 IDF people around the world who are on vacation or doing whatever.
They're going to pull everybody in.
And they're all coming back. I heard in New York, for example, there was a group actually paying for the plane flights to fly over an entire plane to get them back to Israel. And these are the fighters. But these people have to get back. They have to get settled in. They've got to get equipment issued to them. They've got to go through some training to understand what's going on. And then they're going to be sent to the front lines. Right. When they're ready, he's going to kick it off. Netanyahu's going to make it happen.
He's going to level Gaza.
And he's got every right to do it. And
in my opinion, he does.
If he doesn't, then first of all, they were successful. And secondly, you're doomed to repeat it again.
And that's what Hamas wants to. They don't care about the Palestinian people. Iran could care less about the Palestinian people.
No.
They're cannon fodder to them. They want Israel to level it. You got Egypt sitting there doing nothing, which is to their credit, I might add, right? They're not stepping in on that.
No, but they did close the border, and people are criticizing that. They don't need 100,000 or a million people coming across their border of dubious background.
Well, it's not just that. That sucks them into the potential battle.
It could, yeah, that's true.
Funny how they've built a border wall. I don't know if you heard about that.
I'm sure we paid for it somehow.
So they have a border wall. Not only that, but it goes 20 feet down.
Well, that I hadn't heard.
Yeah.
So you weren't digging underneath it either.
You ain't digging
unless
underneath that baby. But I give credit to the Egyptians for basically, we're out.
We're not getting involved. Just keep us out of it.
And because they don't want to get sucked in, and I think that's the ultimate goal.
Now,
is
question
to suck
for
us
you,
in.
And this is interesting. Why hasn't Hezbollah out of Lebanon turned it all loose and came jumping in?
I think they're going to.
I'm not sure.
Well, let's look at it. You're the military guy, not me. Tactically, if Israel is gearing up to go into Gaza, which is basically on the opposite side of the country, diagonally, right? They're going to move the majority of their forces there. That leaves the northeastern border of Israel, where Hezbollah is, less well defended.
Either that, but if you're on the other side of that coin, is if you're an ally of Hamas, by opening up a second front, you blunt that invasion because they don't have to defend two sides.
I'm thinking once Israel launches, that's when Hezbollah is going to come in.
Well, that might be.
That was my thought.
But tactically, I think that's a mistake. I actually just think they're going to wait and see what happens. And at some point, either that or I think they might be waiting to see what the U.S. does.
Well, that's the other side of it. Is I think ultimately this is all to get us in.
And we have a whole fleet standing by there with the aircraft carrier Ford, isn't it?
Yeah, the latest and greatest.
Yeah. And I've seen some of the weaponry on that piece of equipment, and I don't want to mess with that aircraft carrier from any distance.
So let me go a step further now that we're talking about involvement. So we've got Ukraine, Russia going on, right? So that's one front.
Right.
And we're donating, last count, $170 billion of equipment and other stuff to them.
That might be low, but it's there.
The majority of our ammunition's gone there and all that. Now you've got Israel, and we're sending missiles and all this stuff to Israel. We have completely depleted our stocks. We're low on ammo already. Who's to say China's not behind all of this, using their puppets in Russia and Iran to trigger this?
Well, if you look at the axis, if you will, which is
I was
China.
trying to use that term, the axis of evil again.
Yeah, perfect. You've got China, you've got Iran, you've got Russia, and somewhere
Korea
out there,
is the
North Korea is part
North
of
Korea
it.
is the fourth.
As the fourth one. This is. I agree. This is all a plan.
I think it is. I think we're already in World War III. We just don't know it yet.
The question is going to be whether China pulls the trigger to go into Taiwan at some point shortly, or whether South Korea decides to North Korea invades South Korea and starts it there, and then China gets involved.
Or it could be simultaneous also.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, as a military person, you got to think about this. We've got our eyes on Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Gaza. We're not focused on the Koreas or Taiwan right now. God knows what they could do. They could sit back another few months and then launch.
The last time we fought on two fronts was World War II.
But we're already on two fronts.
Where we're supporting one, but we're not committing soldiers. And there's a difference.
That we know of. I was going to put that.
There might be some training advisors there, here and there.
Training advisor. Anybody who thinks, say, I don't know, SEAL Team 6 ain't sitting somewhere in Israel right now, ready to do hostage rescue, is nuts.
Oh, I don't argue with you.
We'll never know it, but
they're ready. The question is, will this guy allow us to do hostage? Land a C-130 someplace, load these people up, because a C-130 can land about anywhere. Now, they call it a Hercules in Israel, but it's our C-130. It's built to land anywhere, fields, whatever else. So pick a secure place, fly the plane in, get your hostages on the damn plane, or get our Americans on the damn plane and get them out of there.
I honestly believe the hostages are a lost cause anyway.
Well, I'm concerned that the latest number now has us with the 600 possible Americans
Something like
there.
that, yeah. And I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see them coming out of it.
I don't think so either. I think they're going to be they're either going to be put up as shields, or they're going to start cutting them. And like they threatened already. Start something, one person every time you do something, and they're going to be at it.
That's what Hamas said they're going to do. It's an ugly situation. As I said a couple minutes ago, I think we're already in World War III. We just don't know it yet.
I agree with you, and I'm afraid to see what happens in the next week or so when we come back to do this. And it's going to be a dire situation.
My wife said to me, she goes, what's the result? What is going on? What are we going to? I said, within a year, we will be at full-blown World War III. That's my belief.
And the other thing we have not discussed, and we probably should push into the next segment because we have to shut this one down. But let's come back and let's discuss terror groups in America. Let's do that. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes on Reclaiming America. This is Bill and Dan saying, hang on there, we'll be back. All right, here we are back again to Reclaiming America, and Dan and I are going to continue our conversation. And we talked about Israel in the first segment, and now we really need to address how that's going to affect us at home. You want to start?
Yeah, I mean, here's where the border crisis of the last 3 years is going. That chicken is going to come home to roost now, potentially, because who knows who's entered the country at this point.
Or is already here.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, there could be dozens of Hamas groups here, or Hezbollah, or whomever.
They have proven that we've had 150 different countries coming across that southern border, and they're only catching 10% of what's coming across?
Yeah, I don't even think it's that much, to be honest with you. But we're at risk here. And, you know, they called for a jihad today as we're filming this. I haven't heard of anything as of now, but that doesn't mean anything. I think it's not if, but when something's going to happen.
Well, if you remember what they also said is the minute the United States gets into this thing, formally, they're going to attack our military bases stateside.
Same kind. They attacked the military bases in Israel, by the way.
Well, they actually did. If you go back here for a little bit, they took over 11 IDF sites that were not really well manned, and nobody was expecting
and a concert site. You know. So, you know, what are they going to go into? I don't know. Give me a concert, Madison Square Garden, you know. But there's a military installation nearby. You know, it's.
I wouldn't want to fight my way through New York City.
Not right now, you know. Yeah, I do think that we're going to see something in the very near future.
The question is, and most of our military bases are open; they're not shut down. I mean, I can drive into any base that I want to. Basically, go shopping there. You know, my military background allows me to do that, but they don't check at the door saying, "Were you coming in?" Now, some of the Navy does. They will check my ID to get on post.
Okay.
But the Army doesn't.
Well, I was like the last time I was in Virginia Beach. And I'm not military, but you know, I was right up there near it, and you weren't getting near those ships.
Well, yeah, that's a little bit different. The Marines also, when you're looking at their air base up near Lejeune, which is separate from Lejeune itself, in both places you got to check in and show an ID.
Yeah.
But there's vast stretches where there's nothing but woods.
Where we live, which is one of the main ammunition dumps for the entire East Coast.
It is the shipping point for the entire European theater and anything over there.
And no FBI, we're not saying we're going to do this, but a kindergartner could get in there. I mean, you literally can walk up there. And if they, God forbid, they ever got in there and blew that, I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. Well,
and they would take out a major port.
Yeah, and it is the shipping port for equipment for ammunition going across
the ships
to
come
Europe.
in and out, not every day, but close to it. So
the good news is, and something about that, is we're running so quickly out of ammunition that ships don't have to come over anymore.
It's just, there's so many targets of opportunity, I think is what they call them.
They call them, well, you've got soft targets, you've got semi-porous targets, you've got hard targets. Okay. Right. You know, and military bases run between semi-porous to hard, depending what's going on and how they shut down and how they get set up. But
you know, you look at some of the military bases; they're near decent-sized cities, so they can claim they're attacking the military base, but cause a lot of casualties.
Well, you know, in most cases, the base arrived and the city grew up around them.
Exactly. Right. You know, the one I was most familiar with, it's closed now, was Plattsburgh. I mean, it was the whole area of Plattsburgh, New York, was built around a SAC base.
Yeah.
So, you know, when that base left, everybody left with it. But, you know, it's sad because for 3-ish years now, pretty much we've had wide open borders. Now all of a sudden we're going to build a wall.
But not all of it.
20-mile stretch?
Yeah, because that'll handle
I was trying to figure that one out, Bill. How does that help?
He's found the 20 miles that they're using. So that doesn't mean, obviously, they won't think about moving 20 miles left or right.
So picture this wall here.
Here it comes.
Here comes Henry, and Henry just went right through the wall.
Yeah, there you go. I mean?
That's what I'm about.
Because he went through the open side.
Thanks for helping me show that demonstrate. Okay, I don't need that side, everybody. But, you know, it was interesting, though, to see that they're even doing that. It was really interesting was seeing KJP, is that a Karine Jean-Pierre? Try and spin it. Oh, we were planning this. And, really? Yeah. I mean, I have to give her credit. She's masterful at lying.
Either she's one of the clueless women in the world, or she has the most difficult job in the world defending the
I
indefensible.
think she's brilliant, Bill. You can't, a clueless person could not do that job as well as she's doing. She's literally
She's defending Clueless.
lying with a straight face masterfully. I got to give her credit.
Yeah.
I mean, to sit there and know you're
Well-
flat out lying.
Well, you got us right into this segment, so why don't we just
Let's
go
go
right
there.
into the presidential
Well, Henry
election?
wants to be part
And
of
why
the
don't we
show.
talk about RFK Jr.?
Oh, big one.
Yeah, go ahead with it.
My boy, maybe. I haven't decided yet. So, in case you've missed it, because some other events happened, RFK Jr., who we've talked about on the show before,
Yes, we have.
As a potential candidate, has in fact come out for the Independent Party, which was I was a little interested to see that he went independent, not no label, and we'll see what happens with that.
Well, he said he was going to run as an independent.
Yeah,
That didn't necessarily the independent party.
true, fair point, fair point.
Okay,
I
so
could see
he
where
could still
might-
end up at no name.
he might link up with them. I watched almost all of his announcement. There were some very good things in it. There were some troubling things in it, to be honest with you. He is a true Kennedy Democrat, I believe.
Yeah, which is a blue dog at best, as
Yeah.
we would have today. And actually, in many cases, he'd be a liberal Republican.
In many cases, the issues that I had with his announcement, I'm going to be. Henry's trying to hold my hand. This is so cute.
Yeah, he's going to bite
He's
it.
literally got his little paw right here, like he's holding.
Because
my
if you
hand.
screw up, he's going to get you.
He's going to scratch me. Like the issues with Kennedy, and I'm not saying I wouldn't vote for him for these, but something to be aware of. He's not a fan of guns. Gee, I wonder why, right?
Yeah,
Considering
I
his
think
uncle.
he's got a family right not to be in
I
favor
think
of guns.
I got to give him that one, but he's not the most pro 2A person.
No, he's
But
not.
I also don't think he's the type that's going to go around saying we got to confiscate guns. I think he's leaning left on it.
Yeah, I think he would look for some sort of limitation,
Yeah.
but not necessarily banning.
Right. Again.
And and that becomes an issue with the Second Amendment people at all. But we have there are no right, and let's just talk about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
There's no right that doesn't have certain limitations on it. For
Right,
example,
right.
freedom of speech does not allow me to go the oldest case in the bit. Now I can't go into a theater and yell fire.
Actually, you can. That is legal.
It is legal now?
It's been since '68. You didn't know that?
No.
The Supreme Court ruled on that.
Well, they changed their mind then.
But everybody uses that thing, but it's a bad thing to use.
But they have limited certain rights out there.
Right, and legitimately, there needs to be some limitations.
Yeah, not a whole lot, but just to define the fringes.
Like, for example, let's use guns. I don't have a problem. You have guns, I have guns. I don't have a problem that I had to have a background check.
No, I don't either.
None. Zero.
And I don't have a problem with someone with a mental issue having those guns at least temporarily taken
Yeah,
away.
I don't have a problem
until
with that
somebody certifies he or she is back where you
Correct.
need to be.
So again, we're talking limitations, and Kennedy may want a little bit more than you and I may want, but is that a reason to not vote for him or support him? I'm not there. There's some other areas that I'm like, all right, we got to be aware of this. But what's the old axiom you use? If you like 70% of what he's saying,
Then he's your candidate.
He's
That's
there.
a Reagan line.
and I want to bring this up because his big shtick to draw the right is that he's going to gut the government, the same as Trump. Let me ask you this. Knowing that they're essentially in the same position on that issue, who do you think is more capable of getting it done? I'm going to say Kennedy.
And I would somewhat agree with you, except I think with the 4 years Trump's experience there, and when he went in there, he was a businessman that became the leader of the
Fair
world.
point, yep.
In those 4 years, they beat him up so badly with the deep state that he now knows what the issues are, who they are, and if he gets back in there, he's going to go after them.
To a point, he can. Like, for example, he could gut the NSA or the CIA or that. But the Republican Party, Bill, they've stonewalled him before. I think Kennedy has better chance of getting support from both parties within Congress to make changes.
I think the
a
Democratic
point.
Party is so far right, it's so far left, it's gone
They're
beyond.
well,
It's gone beyond any sensible answers.
again, though, circling back to what we're seeing in the last week, I think Democratic Party got its eyes opened last week.
Yeah, but you saw their first responses when they said, "Are you?"
Oh
gonna...
yeah, but then when BLM came out and was a Democratic Socialists of America, we're supporting Hamas. I think a large portion of the Democratic Party went, wait a minute here. Hold on here, right?
Well, I'm not sure there are that many moderates left in the Democratic Party because
No,
I
they've
think
gone
the left
independent.
wing has grabbed it.
Yeah, they've gone independent. And that's, again, that plays to Kennedy's strengths, right?
It would.
I think, again, I am not ready to come out and say I would vote for Kennedy right now, but as I'm looking at it, I think he's a viable candidate, and I do think he has a chance to win. He's going to pull a lot from the Democratic Party. He's going to pull a lot from the middle. And there are enough Republicans that don't like Trump in the sense, not that his policies, but Trump, the celebrity Trump, if you will.
The personality.
So, and I kind of fall in that. I love Trump's policies. I don't. He's a showman.
But the problem you're going to be facing if you're a Republican, you've got an independent line that traditionally has done nothing more than spoil somebody's side.
Agreed.
And you have a Biden, say, or whoever else they might put in there. Newcomb maybe from
Newsom
this.
will probably be it, yeah.
Will probably be doing this, but they're so far left. You can't take the chance of voting in the middle because you could end up putting them in. And that's going to be a decision a lot of people have to make.
The thing I'm looking at is, though, where we're at now, I think your points are 100% valid. We're talking a year out. Things are going to change drastically in that
And not
time.
for the better.
They're going to be riots are going to happen next summer. Guarantee you they're going to happen.
And we're talking about the probability of terrorist attacks in the country.
That you've got the trials Trump's going to go through.
Right.
All of that's going to come into play.
Yeah, but you know something? Trump has said every time they bring him in front of someplace, he gets more voters and more money.
But giving him support in trials versus actually voting for him at the time, I don't know. I'm not saying Kennedy's going to win right now. I don't know. I'm saying he's a viable candidate and he may win.
I think he's going to make a difference in the election. The question is on whose side.
Given. It also depends who he picks for a VP.
Yeah, and you have your pick, don't you?
No, my pick's going with Trump, apparently.
Well, then you're really in trouble.
It depends who he picks for VP. So what Bill's busting on me about is Tulsi Gabbard, who I admire. She was on some show. It was on YouTube is where I saw it. And basically the moderator said to her, would you take a call from Donald Trump? And she said, with a big grin on her face, absolutely I will. Meaning, in my mind, I'm like, she already has.
It's interesting as you say that because Trump has indicated now that he's leaning toward a female vice president, and I don't think Nikki Haley is going to fill that bill.
I think Nikki Haley shot herself in the foot.
Oh yeah, especially what she said about Trump a couple of times. She's done because he doesn't
attacking
forgive.
Trump and just overall, her whole campaign is not. She was never going to win. We've talked about that before.
Well, she was running for VP.
She was running for VP. I think she took herself out of that.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Yeah, I could see where it might be Tulsi Gabbard. I could also see Gabbard going with Kennedy potentially.
Yep.
There's a lot of viable middle of the road candidates. Depends how it all shakes out. It could be very interesting. It would be fun.
It all depends on what's going on in the country and the world, and that's going to make a major decision on what's happening.
Wouldn't you like to see the debate with Trump, Kennedy, who are both very well-spoken men and know what they're doing in a debate, and then the watermelon brain?
Either that, but we talked about Newsom, who's also
I actually do think Newsom's going to be it, but
or you might get Carmella.
We're supposed to be somber today, Bill. Don't get me started on her. I'm still predicting by mid-January she's out.
Okay, we'll see.
I just don't. I just like no.
Well, in theory, the problem is if they invoke the 25th Amendment, she's in charge.
She's it.
So unless they replace her first before they go after the 25th Amendment,
and that's what we're waiting.
And that's going to take a multi-group approach to do that because you're going to have to first get rid of her, and then you're going to have to go in front of the Congress to get an approval for the next vice president.
But all right, so let's assume the Republican. We're going to get into the whole Republican House.
Yeah, the
side
next
thing,
segment.
but
Next
let's
segment.
assume they get their house squared away, pun intended. And so we're sitting. I'll use January, and the Democrats behind closed doors, because that's how they'll do it, is say we want Kamala out. We're going to give you Newsom's probably the number one. I'm assuming it's going to go into that spot because they'll want to key him up to run for president. Plus, if they
But
25th
don't forget,
him
there's still
out,
that dark horse of Buttigieg out there.
I know he's out there, but let's just assume Newsom. Then they 25th Biden out. Newsom's now president and running for re-election, and that time doesn't count towards his 8 years.
That's true.
Democrats are very smart. I could see them doing that and then go into whoever the speaker is and saying, you give us this, we'll throw you some bone, and boom, Gavin Newsom is your VP, and by June, Biden's out, Newsom's president. I could see it happening. Conspiracy theory, I admit, but
Well, the only problem with that theory is the longer that would, if they start that in January, that process is a March, April, May operation before it's actually finished, the whole thing.
oh, agreed. But
And then by that point, you're talking July and August are the national conventions.
that's my point. Is getting him in that position by the convention is exactly my point. So that when the time comes,
honestly, I don't think the Republicans would allow it.
if they're smart,
That's another question. You promised not to laugh.
he said that one.
You promised not to laugh.
That's
in this
exactly
suburb.
my point. Is they would want Newsom in place by June because
It's a viable operation. It's also just as viable that they let Biden ride into the convention and then replace him there.
they could do it there also. And you got to keep in mind, the dude's what, 82,
Something like that.
and he's not in the best of health. We're literally
Yeah, but let's think about that for a minute. How do you know whether he's dead or alive? Let's talk about, except he walks.
weekend at Biden's.
Put him on the beach, put him in the chair, take your pictures. What difference does he make if he's breathing or not? I hate to say that.
No,
But how do you
I
tell the
get your
difference?
point. I totally get your point. But, we always say the VP is one heartbeat away, right? Just factoring his age, his health.
His mental acuity is the bigger issue of everything,
It is, but he could drop tomorrow.
right?
I mean,
He could last for another 10 years.
It could last for another 10 years, but we don't know.
And RFK could die tomorrow. Trump could
No,
die
my
tomorrow.
point being, yeah, but they're not president. If Biden drops tonight, guess who's our president right now?
It would take weeks to for someone to figure out he's not alive.
You're wishful thinking on that. They would swear her in.
No, they wouldn't. They
You
would
don't-
not swear her
you
in until
don't
they
think
got
they
rid of
would?
her.
You don't think they would? What choice do they have?
They keep him alive till they get rid of her.
I agree with you. I know. I understand what you're saying.
And
But
I don't
we
wish
also know
anybody ill will. Well, we
No, we're not
this.
no,
we really
but-
don't wish anybody ill
But the
will.
reality is, they would swear her in the next minute. Once he's declared, they're going to know internally. Yeah, they're not going to prop him up like Weekend at Bernie'sville. Come on. You
They're
know
doing it
that.
now.
I mean, pretty much he is. But then we have Kamala, and then we're looking at Israel. We're looking at Ukraine.
We're
and
looking at
she's
Taiwan.
country.
We're looking at South America.
Oh dear Lord!
And she would laugh.
that cackle. Someone said, what the perfect job for her is? That mannequin that stands in like a corner of somebody's house and does the cackling witch. That little thing. That's the perfect job.
Do you realize you just insulted all the witches in America right now? We're going to get banned for
Just like
picking on
that,
witches.
you have Santa Claus and he talks and dances. That's the perfect
With all
job
that
for
said,
her.
we need to wrap up this
All
segment.
right, we're going.
And we'll come back and we'll talk to you again. This time we're going to look at what's going on in the Republican Party, especially in the House of Representatives.
It's going to be fun.
See you soon. Well, Henry's back leading us into the next segment here, which we're going to be talking about the House of Representatives and the Republicans shooting themselves in the foot with an 8-inch cannon.
Okay. Do tell.
Would you like me to start on that
I
one?
was going to let you start. That's
Now,
your bailiwick.
Here's where we first disagree. When Mr. Gates opened up his personal assault, and I know we disagree on that one because I think it was done for all the wrong reasons, and he's created a crisis in the House of Representatives at a time we don't need a crisis. Because you have to understand now, the House of Representatives can do nothing without a permanent speaker. And if they want to do even a resolution, for example, supporting Israel, it's by 100% consent. And with that gang of five with Tlaib and AOC, et cetera, you're never going to get 100%.
We got to talk about her in a minute. Go ahead.
Okay. So at this particular point, they're now saying it might be weeks before we settle on a speaker. So, we started out with Scalise and Jordan running against each other, and their first vote won, I think it was 118 to 99 or something close to that.
Well, the last I had heard before we film on Fridays. So last night Scalise backed out. But basically, I think it was Tuesday, they did a straw poll internally, and Scalise was going to be the nominee. That was what I had heard. Not it was a done deal, but that's who they were going to put out for vote to get it to the floor.
Now, what I had heard, just the opposite, that when they did that poll, he lost 30 or 40 voters.
The number I heard, these aren't exact, was something like they did that poll internally. It was like 115 to 99 or something like that.
Well, that was the actual vote. That's the one that took place the first time
within the Republican conference.
Within the conference.
So then that made Scalise the.
No, but they've already agreed that you need all 270
people
absolutely.
To agree.
So you had an operation there. The last thing I heard is that Scalise did some checking, and somewhere like 40 votes of his were deserting to Jordan. So at that point, now he decided to step down. I do know there's some conflict going on right now because there's some representatives that are saying that Jordan threatened him. Jordan's answer was, we had a meeting. I told him, if I'm the only candidate left, you need to come out there and support me. If you're not running, I'm the only one left. You need to come out and support me and tell your people to support me. However, I have heard that the current acting Speaker of the House, I forget his name right now,
Mr. Bowtie,
has decided he's putting a candidacy together to run for the job too. So this doesn't look like it's going to solve itself anytime soon. So we're not going to be able to vote any support financially to anybody at this particular point that doesn't already exist. In addition to that, God forbid we go to war, we can't even declare war.
We don't need to declare war. They'll just do an executive order.
They only have 30 days.
Just like they did with
right now the law says they can start a military action, but within 30 days they need Congress's approval.
I get all your points, but there's part of me sitting back loving every minute of this because it is paralyzing the government. If they are paralyzed, they can't spend our money. They can't pocket it.
But the only thing that I would say with that, I don't disagree with that. But I would also say, what I would do to all of them is knowing, whatever your salary is for those number of days you're down, you've lost that salary.
Yeah, that's.
I like what they do to elect popes with the variation. When they elect a pope and they bring all the cardinals in, the rule is that every day they give them a little less food.
Oh, really? I didn't know this.
So they finally get to a point.
I know they have to stay in the room.
They have to stay there, but they also start cutting their food back.
Oh, I like
historically,
that.
In our case with the congressman, your salary's gone.
Oh, I like that. And some of our congressmen could stand to lose a few pounds.
Some of them.
Yeah, I said it.
Some of them are just pure fatheads. I agree.
Setting aside what Bill mentions, that it is a concern because things are paralyzed. But there's part of me going, I hope this goes on for months. I really do, because again, I get all your concerns, but that means they're not spending more billions in Ukraine. They're not, funding their latest pet project in their district. The taxpayers are winning on this. We'll see. Of the Republicans, I'm hoping it was Jordan. That's who I think it should be, and I thought that back in January. I think he's the most viable person to be speaker.
Yes, he's also the kind that will not take any garbage, and he'll stand up for his beliefs.
He is the one that I believe will move forward with the Hunter Biden stuff and all that.
Now, the one thing that is going on there, I understand that part of this package, when they finally elect somebody, is going to be they're going to eliminate that one-person rule.
And again, both a silly rule, but one I was glad was there. This was brilliant. You and I disagree on Gates, but I'm glad he did it because I did not like McCarthy, and
The other side of this is also, there's been a lot of talk. The Democrats are sitting there laughing because what they're doing is they're building up their case for the election. The Republicans can't govern. You have to vote for us. They're not capable of governing.
but is that anything we didn't already know, Bill? I mean, I'm sorry, but
But you don't give the enemy,
eh,
you don't give them any ammunition.
2022. Well, let's go back to 2020. Biden's hiding in the basement the whole time. Trump was going to be a slam dunk winner. Nothing. Well, we saw what happened. Biden's now president. You go to 22. A year ago now, you and I were sitting there speculating, is it going to be 240?
Yeah, we were speculating the numbers.
50
And I told you how
House.
close it was going to be, and you were pushing those big numbers.
No.
You see, I'm remembering it differently.
I was the conservative one saying, I think I said 235, if I remember right, somewhere in there. You were up in the 250s, I think.
Well, I was over 240. I'll give you that.
But, the red tidal wave that was going to happen wasn't even a
Ripple.
pebble in a puddle. So
And they're lucky
I
they
will
got what
give
they
you
got.
this. The Republican Party is masters at one thing, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. They are masters at it.
And with all things being said, they're also it's not without a valid criticism that the current leadership that was there, and that includes our current Senate leadership with the turtle, Senator McConnell.
Well, that's my point. He's got to go. He's in a got-to-go situation.
They work well as a minority party, but not as a group in
Yes,
charge.
exactly. And that's where I like Jordan. I think Jordan is that one that could step out, and I don't want to make him like Trump, but be it Trump-like, but maybe a little bit more, with a little more decorum, if you will. What DeSantis should have been until whoever is running his campaign, that person shouldn't even run for a class president for a kindergarten. That whoever ran his campaign ran it right in the ground. But I think Jordan could step out and then become that leader, which then would carry forward to the election. Because I think right now, Republicans are in deep shit in 24 with the Congress. I
think we're too far out to make those kind of predictions.
It is. I'm saying if it was held right now.
Well, if I were rich, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing
I
right
just-
now. Well, here we are.
Things are going to be a year
I'd
from
buy
now.
my own station and do this correctly.
We have our own station.
I'm talking about a television station.
But you get my point. It's
And
a year from now. It's
Greta
going to
could be
be
in charge of NBC, CBS, ABC, the
the
BBM.
FCC.
Not the FCC.
Give her the FCC, you're going to be charging all of them. But you're talking, it's going to be a year of chaos. That's, I was talking to my wife about this. I'm like, get ready, honey. Buckle up, because you have no idea what's coming. I do. Because she lives in La La Land with politics, She saw the stuff on, I happen to have NBC News on the other night. Why? I don't know. I know. But it was Monday night with the Israel. I'm like, I wanted to see what Israel was going on. And she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, she didn't even know what had happened. Because that's how, she doesn't get involved in any of that.
You know what?
And
Speaking about that, what bothers me for Israel, and we're going back a little bit on this. The press across the world is already singing that song. Well, be careful. You don't want to kill too many people. You don't want to hurt the civilians.
And we, to the Israelis' credit, I think they will do everything they can to minimize civilian casualties.
And the Hamas is
But
going
when
to do everything
Hamas
they can
is
to put them there.
literally lining them up by the missile sites,
Right.
Israel's got no choice.
Stay in the building. We're going to be downstairs. You're going to be upstairs.
But we were talking about your good buddy Rashid Tlaib, Ilhan Omar.
Oh yeah, the
AOC.
squad. The squad.
Oh my, have they stepped in it?
Lions and tigers. And
So did you see
oh
where
my.
the reporter was chasing Tlaib?
Yes, I did. And she wouldn't even talk.
So, if you didn't see it, you got to go find it. It's all over YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, all over the place. Go look at it. So this reporter's literally chasing her through the garage to get into the Congress, saying, where do you stand on this? Again, I paraphrase. And she wouldn't give an answer. Now, she's pro-Palestine.
She has a flag in front of her.
I was going to get to that.
Okay, I beat you to it.
But I'm okay with her being pro-Palestinian. But she couldn't stop and say to that reporter, look, I'm pro-Palestinian. I think that they deserve whatever, blah, 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 whatever talking point she wants to use. But I do not support the killing of innocent women and children. She
And the
couldn't
beheading of babies.
even
She couldn't do
say that, which tells you she supports what's
And
happening.
what was interesting, if you watch the rest of that filming, a number of other Democratic leadership there, you had Claiborne, you had even Pelosi, came by, and they were asking the same thing. She won't support it. She's got this. Well, she has every right to have what her belief
Yeah.
she is.
Well, they're all backtracking now. You know, they're all trying to go.
Backtracking.
Oh,
They need to be in reverse, and reverse needs to be 6 gears.
but she showed her true colors. Now she's out of Minnesota, if I remember right.
Yeah.
If she gets reelected after that, I say we divest ourselves of Minnesota.
Well, let me tell you what the problem is.
The entire state.
The problem is why she gets elected and reelected. She represented a district that basically President Obama created with a large amount of Somali settlers.
Yeah.
And that's what she's representing. And they are Arabic, and they are.
And Ilhan Omar's the same scenario.
Yeah, and so she's representing a people who are, for the most part, Muslim and Arabic.
And you know what? If they reelect her, they're coming out saying we support what happened. That's my accountability is a fickle bitch.
Well, they're going to reelect AOC, aren't they? And if you talk about brains were dynamite, the woman couldn't blow her nose.
Actually, I guess there's someone lining up in the Democratic side to run against her that might have a legitimate shot to take her out. I don't remember the name, but even AOC tried to backtrack on it because after you see that video and know that all she had to do was stop and go, look, I don't support what their actions are. I support their cause, but not their action. A very simple statement, and she could have covered her ass with that.
And people would have accepted that for the most part and walked away.
And she should have been held accountable for that also. But I was like, I've watched it like 3 times because I just find it so enjoyable. Because even her aide is walking with her going, oh, shit.
Yeah, he's got the elbows down.
He did not want to
He kind
deal
of threw a
with it.
block when she got in the elevator.
Now, if let's assume Jordan becomes speaker or whomever in the next couple of weeks, do they censor her? I say so, because you're talking about the flag now, right? So here's the other thing. You're talking about the Palestinian flag. Did you notice the other flag right next to it?
There was the American flag, and there's another one I didn't pay attention
That
to.
other one was the rainbow flag, the LGBT
Oh, I didn't pay attention
flag.
to it. I
So-
looked at those too.
Someone on our Twitter account, who shall remain nameless, might have mentioned that those 2 flags were next to each other. Okay, which is fine. I invite Miss Tlaib to take both of those flags, both of them, and walk down Main Street, Tehran with them.
I invited her to go back to her own area and walk down the people representing her with both those flags.
Watch what happens.
Oh.
If you're gonna support both causes, I'll applaud it. That's fine. Show me you got the guts to support it. Go into Gaza with those flags. And for those that don't know, it would not end well for her.
No, the Muslim faith, the Islamic faith, is not a big fan of any kind
They
of.
throw them off buildings.
Well, yeah, I was getting there, but I was.
Not a big fan. You're trying not to get us banned. I'll say it. They do throw them off buildings, you know. And what we mean is the LGBT community. Again, it shows me that she doesn't care about any of those people. Because any reasonable person would be like, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to have those 2 flags next to each other. Put one out and the next day switch to the other, okay. But to try and play that
You know, it was
game,
also interesting. Now, the American flag was here, the Palestinian flag was here, and then the LGBTQXYZMOUSE was over here. And technically, as far as I'm concerned, though the American flag was proper here, the other one was out in front.
was it? I remember seeing it. And
You
I'm
had
trying
a
to picture it.
triangle.
Yeah.
You had this.
Yeah, there are rules on that. Yeah.
You had this. I can't lift that right here. You had this. Almost clammed up on us.
What?
You had this setup, and this was the Palestinian flag. Now, this was the American flag, and you had this was the LGBTMOUSEQRV flag. You know, and as far as I'm concerned, the American flag belongs here,
Yep.
but nobody should be ahead of it.
Right. Well,
So
there's
I almost would have, I would have
there are
seen
rules
this.
to flying
I
flags,
could have
so-
seen this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's her call. But the American flag was not even in the front row.
What does that tell you, Bill? And that she's in Congress.
Yep, and she'll be back.
it'll be interesting to see on that because I haven't seen too much reaction, but a little bit I've seen from the Arabic world. You know, you get the imams in Iran all pro, but I'm seeing a little backlash. I've seen a lot of it. You know, we've seen the rallies in the United States. You know, I'm seeing a lot of rich white liberal kids at those rallies
with guilt
pro
complexes.
Palestine, right? I'm not seeing. There are Arabic people.
I'm sure there are students
I'm trying
there
to be polite here, right, and skirt these so I don't get canceled thing. But they're in there, but there's not a huge number of them. The one rally they said there was like 100 pro-Israel and like 6 pro-Palestine. But the way the news makes it, because they play their little game, they make those 6 look like 600. You know?
Sure.
I could see where there's a backlash from the Arabic community on this towards someone like her.
Well, you know,
because they're the ones that are going to really suffer.
You know, unfortunately, the Islamic religion has been grabbed by terrorists. You know, and they're taking it to the nth degree. I mean,
And
with all probability, the basis of Quran is a peaceful operation with the
very much so.
You know, but these terrorists have said, you know, it is not a whole lot different. Go back to the Crusades, when the Christians were doing the exact same thing because they were taking back Jerusalem.
Yep.
And, you know, when they were persecuting the Jews back then, and they were saying, you know, convert or die. And this is exactly what the Muslims are doing right now.
We're seeing it now. It's why I don't like religions. We had this conversation a couple weeks ago. This is exactly why. Because I see things like Islam, which is a very peaceful religion. I have friends who are Islamic. They are appalled at what the terrorists do. That's not us. They say it over and over again. That's not us. Don't judge us by them. And I get that, and they're right to say it. Same thing happens to Catholics, right? Don't judge us by what the priests did. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, they are the face of those religions. The terrorists for Islam, for a while, it's kind of gone away, but the priests were for Catholicism for a while. I'm not saying either one is right.
Yeah, well, now we have the Pope for Catholicism, who's definitely, he's a little bit to the left.
I don't follow him, so.
Oh, trust me. He is Mr. Green Energy, Mr. Publishing and taking everybody down. He is
taking on the Pope, Bill?
Oh, yeah, I am, and I'm a Catholic, and I'm doing it.
Go for it. You got 2 minutes.
Yeah, Pope Francis is so far to the left, he makes BLM look like a right organization. And that's pushing it.
So he's so far to the left, the Pope won't even make right-hand turns?
I like that one better. I'll take that one. He's bought every bit, you know, all people should open up all their doors. There should be no gates to stop people from coming. Immigration everywhere. Green energy.
I have a question.
They do have a wall around the Vatican.
I was going to say, can anybody move into the Vatican?
If you can scale that 30, 40-foot
So
wall.
why can't I move in?
Because you couldn't afford it.
They should be taking care of me.
Well, that's a whole different world. Do as I say, not as I did.
You know, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. This is why I am not religious, is because of the politicization of religion, and it's been that way forever, and it will be forever. I get that. But.
You know, I can be sitting there, and I will tell you that I'm a person of great faith. I'm not necessarily a big fan of organized religion, but it's the best.
We're not that far apart, really.
It's best. You know, it's right now the best way I can find things, but I'm not above. I have my own religious beliefs. I do my own private prayers, and I believe I have a good relationship with God. And whether the Catholic Church is going to get me there or not, I don't know, and I really don't care.
And on that note, it's probably time we should wrap things up. So if you followed us this far, give us that like, give us that share. Let us know what you think. Comment below. We're up on many different platforms now. YouTube for now. TikTok for now. Rumble we're up on. So go follow us on Rumble. Because I don't think we'll get taken off of Rumble anytime soon. And then Twitter. Twitter. So follow us on all those. And then come back and join us next week. Hey, let us know if there's topics you want us to talk about too.
Yeah, and we got to find out. Well, God forbid, we'll talk about what happens the next week.
I'm almost afraid to come back next week, Bill.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything but a much more somber broadcast.
Let's hope things improve.
And you know, I can hope that I'll be rich in the morning, and neither one of those are probably going to happen.
Yeah, I didn't win the $1 billion, so. All right, on that note, we'll see you next time on Reclaiming America.
Have a good one. See you soon.